Good afternoon, everybody. It is Sunday, August 31st, 2025. Yes, it's been forever since I've done a video update on the layout, but this one I think is going to be well worth the wait. So, anyways, I haven't been not doing anything. It's just I've been busy and you know how it gets. So, this is the Milwaukee Road in 1953 on the LaCrosse division between Portage, Wisconsin and LaCrosse, Wisconsin. This layout's been a work in progress for about 4 years now, I believe. So, had the opportunity this summer to go to the NMRA convention over in Michigan, and we took our N-scale Modutrack layout over there, and we're one of the host layouts in the hotel. And in order to get there, of course, we had to drive from northern Wisconsin. So, me and a buddy of mine, we took about a week and made a trip of it. Stopped in Chicago, did some hobby shops, things like that. But on the way back, we were discussing the layout, and he's helped me a lot with this. His name is Ken. He's got an N-scale clinch field layout over in south side of the Twin Cities in Minnesota. So we were discussing things, and we came to the conclusion that we need to redo part of my layout. So, because there's not enough staging, and where it is not the optimal location for it. So, right now, you're looking at New Lisbon, Wisconsin, and that hasn't changed a whole lot. And that's Camp Douglas. That hasn't changed a whole lot. This is Mauston, Wisconsin. That hasn't changed a whole lot. Around the curve here, we're going west. This is Fort McCoy, Wisconsin. Army base goes up in that Y. That hasn't changed a whole lot. But on the east end of the layout, east of Mauston, that's Mauston, as we came around here, this used to be the staging yard. Well, it's not anymore. That's quite a bit of difference there. So, this is now Wisconsin Dells, Wisconsin. And if you'll notice, for continuous running, and where's the staging tracks at? Well, cut a hole in the backdrop and routed the main lines through the backdrop, in addition to the CMStP&P main line back there that goes into Camp Douglas, Fort McCoy. I actually extended that so then it can be used. And we built some bench work back there and went around the corner. So, let's hop in the other room and see what the new staging yard looks like. We'll come back to the Dells here in a little bit. So, next door, the room next to my layout room, is the utility room. This didn't have anything in it about 4 weeks ago. This is the new staging yard. So, where we cut through the backdrop, this used to be a home theater room, the previous owners in the house. So, this cabinet is here, built in, and I didn't really have to punch through the wall. All I had to do was cut through the backdrop of the layout modules. So, there's my two main lines coming around and the CMStP&P main line. And I built bench work. And you'll notice here, the rest of the layout is Atlas Code 55. But for ease of maintenance and things, I transferred the track in the staging yard is Atlas Code 80. So I took my Code 55 track and I made adapters for them. So I put Code 80 rail joiners and crimped them, and then laid the track on the Code 55 track on top of it and filed it smooth on the top, and it works really well. So it's Atlas Code 80 flex track and Pico Code 80 Electrofrog turnouts. I have both the large radius straights and then curved radius Electrofrogs. So if you look at this, if you remember what the old staging yard looked like, and I'm not quite done yet. I'm waiting for one turnout to come in the mail, which is going to go right there, a left. And then I'll be able to put some more track in there. But this is like 2 to 3 times the amount of staging that I had in the other room. And I originally, when we were talking about this, I thought, well, I'll just do a stub-ended staging yard. But then I decided, okay, I wanted continuous running, so I built it's not a return loop because I don't have to do any auto reversing. It's just a continuation of the main lines all the way around. Now back here where everything comes together and goes into the staging, you'll notice you can't get from one direction to the other because you would have had to put turnouts there, and that, if you would have done that, you would have had to put a reverser in here, and I didn't want to do that. So this works. Trains exit the staging yard, say here, they run around the layout and they enter here, and then in between sessions I back them out of the staging yard, go around the loop, and then back them back in. Boy, that's going to give somebody a headache. So anyways, I got plenty of room for trains, and now I actually have a working interchange with the Northwestern, so I pulled out some of my Northwestern equipment, and it's sitting here in the yard too. So that'll have a dedicated track here in the staging yard, and there'll be a train that goes and interchanges with Milwaukee Road up in Fort McCoy. So each one of these tracks has Tomar bumping posts at the end of it. The reason for the insulators is, of course, if you look at that, the left and the right rails are soldered together, so if those insulated rail joiners weren't in there, they would short out. So the radius on the curves is 20 inches or greater. Like these nice broad curves here are quite large, but the tightest spot is coming out of the staging yards here, and the mains here, these ones, it's about 20 inches. These two are bigger, and then this one's even bigger yet. So so that's what I've been doing. And then the bench work, of course, is high enough. Well, not of course, but I made the bench work's high enough. There's my spray booth underneath, and it's a big mess right now because I'm working on it. But yeah, so that's what the staging yard looks like. We'll head back in the other room and talk a little bit about the dells. So here's the dells. Again, this used to be the staging yard, and you can see remnants of it. You can see where the adhesive was and some of the lines and such. So the track plan for the dells here up to that corner, this is reasonably accurate to what was there in 1955. And you may be wondering, well, how do you figure that out? Well, we're going to talk through that. This bridge does not look remotely like the prototype, but at least it's a bridge. So anyways, and that's a lift out section that has not been, I'm going to figure out something else to do with this so it hinges up and down or something, but right now the track is laid straight across there and it's not cut yet, so you can't lift out the lift out yet, but that'll be coming. So this is my main resource for figuring out all the track that's on the layout. So it's a condensed profile, which means it shows all of the stations and the track mileage on the Milwaukee Road. So you open up to the LaCrosse division here and you find Wisconsin Dells, and there it is. It's at milepost 195. That's west from Chicago. So according to this, Wisconsin Dells had water columns there, and then there, if you look carefully, is the track layout, and it's pretty accurate. So the two mains, and there's two sets of crossovers right in front of the depot. There's a passing siding on both mains, and then there's a spur that goes to the Wisconsin Power and Light Company. That's what that WC is. And then there's 2 spurs that go behind the freight house, and then there's another lead into that. So what I do with that, I'll show you what I do next. So I take that schematic that was in the book, and then I lay it out on paper just so it's a little easier to read. And then I had the reason there's painter's tape on the top of, or masking tape on there, because I had it hung over the thing. So I take that plan and I condense it down into this just to make it a little easier. Now, this was the original one, and I changed some of the turnouts in here. And it's a line, it's like you would see on a dispatcher's panel. It doesn't show any of the curves or anything, but when I put it on the layout, I put some curves in it just to make it a little more interesting. So there's a set of number 10 crossovers right in front of the depot. And then this is the spur to the Wisconsin Power and Light. The Wisconsin River's over there, and the dam in Wisconsin Dells would be right about here. Actually, it's right about here. So there was a spur that ran to Wisconsin and Power and Light. That's the freight house. There's the 2 spurs behind it. Here's the eastbound main passing siding here, double-ended. The westbound passing siding was laid out a little different, so you couldn't duck into it. But then there's the lead going down to I think I'm going to put a lumber yard there. So one thing I did differently in this town here, if you look, the mains and the passing sidings are on roadbed. Then the spurs I put right down directly on the foam, which is what I should have done on the rest of the layout, because the spurs, if you look at the profile, they sit lower than the main lines, as they should. Makes it look better. So anyways, so that's what I've been doing. So this took quite a bit of work. Like I said, it took about 4 weeks to work on this. I had to rip stuff out and redo things and then wait for track to come in the mail. But I think it was well worth it. I think it's going to be a lot better after 4 years of having, of course, nobody ever has enough staging, but this is going to really help some things. So some of these structures are stand-ins. I'll probably build the real depot here. That's a Walther's buildup, but I have plans for the real Wisconsin Dells depot, and I've done it once already, actually, on my Modutrack module. And I'm going to rebuild this bridge. It won't be as long as a prototype, but that's a good stand-in for right now. And this is 2 Atlas plate girder double track bridges, and there's a real big space in between them, but I cut it down and then I soldered the rails together to get them closer together so they look more realistic. So, and I took out the crossovers that used to be there. Yeah, so that's what the layout's at right now. I figured the last thing I'll do here for you guys today is I'll just run a train or 2 through here just so you can see some action. So the first train we're going to see go through the Dells here is the eastbound Olympian Hiawatha. These are mostly Kato cars with there's a Rapido sleeper in there, and there's a Skytop Models baggage car. So I think the last thing we'll see today is we'll follow this freight train with a Broadway Limited Mikado on the front of it. I've got the sound turned off on it, but we'll follow this guy through staging. Sorry for my bouncy camera angle. I don't have it set up on the tripod right now. You'll notice the lighting is a lot better in the furnace room here, but I hung two high output LED lights in here so we could see what we're doing back here. And now that I've done that back here, I kind of want to do that in the layout room too, so I may be doing that shortly. But and then I will also put some guard rails up on the edges of this, so if a train decides to derail itself, it doesn't end up on the floor. Unlike the rest of the bench work in the other room that are modules, this is built into the studs on the walls. It's mostly that way. There's one support leg, which you can see in front of the water heater there. And then of course there's a bus wire running back from the command station back here. So I think that'll just about wrap it up for today. So I hope you enjoyed this update of quite a bit happening on the N-Scale LaCrosse division. I'll try to keep working on it a little more, but I thought you guys would enjoy seeing what's been going on. So with that, I hope you guys have a pleasant rest of your Labor Day weekend. Thanks.